Hi, the second part of my music reference books collection. Please check out the first one where I go through lots of other books. This one's George Melly, Revolting Style, Pop Arts in Britain. I love this one. I got the original edition when it came out. Well, probably not when it came out, but certainly a little bit later. This is all about Ted's, Flower Power, Mary Quant, Carnaby Street. It's got about arts, it's got about music, of course. It's got all the various scenes of that period. And it's just a fascinating book by George Melly, of course, who was a great musician as well. So, and also turned up regularly on TV. There's loads of these books. 1,000 recordings. It could be 1,001 recordings. Loads of them. This one's classical music mainly. A lot of classical music, but also other music as well, of course. I don't think, you got there Debussy there, but also you've got the things like Ella Fitzgerald as well, and Fishbone and Julie London. I love Julie London's music, At Home, Around Midnight, and it just gives a description, of course, and also film. I love film music. Lots of great film music. Gunfighter ballads. Now, quite a few of these ones I have actually never played. Marty Robbins. So there's also lots of other ones as well. Get It While You Can, and many others. Now, there's also another one very similar, and this is part of the 1,001 songs. Now, I think there's 1,001 comics, 1,001 science fiction, 1,001 movies, 1,001 something. And shows a number of examples, like Won't Get Fooled Again, of course, by The Who, Curtis Mayfield, Superfly, Ticket to Ride, and of course, Mamas and Papas. It's the Mamas and Papas, I should say. Californian Dreamin'. And also got MC5. It just gives some details about the band and or the singer, obviously, and the Stooges, and also the Bee Gees, Alice Cooper, and many, many others. And obviously someone at this point ticked it because they obviously thought, yes, I've got that record, or I've listened to it, so I've ticked it off. So getting through the songs. I love this book. This is probably one of my earliest music books that I ever had. It was just the Rolling Stone. Now, I didn't at the time buy any Rolling Stone, the newspaper magazine, but I did love this. It was just brilliant. It had loads of albums. Many of them I tried to pick up, and you could find all these, obviously, LPs all over the place. And of course, the Beatles. And it's got things like Hard Day's Night, of course, Beatles. Now you can see, obviously, the references there. Beatles 6 and 65, obviously, the American ones. Also, Live at Hollywood Bowl. I love that album. That was great. I wish I hadn't got rid of my copy of that. However, it gives it 5 stars, strangely enough. I think virtually all the Beatles gets 5 stars. And then you've got others that don't do so well. Of course, you've got the late period there, but it gives details about all the bands, obviously, the music, and also you've got like the Birds. Again, 5 star, Mr. Tambourine Man, Turn, Turn, Turn. I love those albums. And of course, the ones that came after as well. Absolutely brilliant. And of course, it mentions those. Fifth Dimension, Notorious Bird Brothers, Younger Than Yesterday, also superb albums. But it was just a great reference for me, also for things like the blues, as well as jazz, and a lot more, just lots and lots. I didn't like the volume that came later. There was a blue volume, and probably subsequent volumes, but this one, for me, 10,000, I mean, just a great sort of going through it. And I was always going to shops, get that, because they're just great records. 50s, nice little small little one, best-selling albums of, and this is all it is, just showing pictures of the various best-selling albums. And it's quite amazing when you go through these, you think, oh, really? That record was a best-selling? The Late Late Show, Pal Joey as well, obviously that's Frank Sinatra, wasn't it? Frank Sinatra again, in the wee small hours. You always sort of associate, obviously, Frank Sinatra again. I think, was he the best-selling? Obviously he was. You got, Roger Williams, so somebody else does count. Elvis must be in here somewhere. Imagine Frank Sinatra again. That's strange. There's a lot, obviously, of best-selling albums, and also West Side Story. Love that one. Miles Davis, of course, superb album as well. And it's got the back as well. Oh, Elvis Presley. There is at least an Elvis Presley. I think that was his first, wasn't it? First album. So that's that. Big bands. Now, I don't know much about that period. This book is a great little reference, so not the most useful for me particularly, because I don't think hardly any records of big band music. But you've got the arrangers, you've got all the various musicians, loads of pictures all the way through, lots of details about all the various people in the big band scene. And you can see there it's also got lists at the back giving more records to suggestions and ideas for big bands. This is an odd book, Philip's Twen. Now, Twen is a magazine from Germany, and this one, they produce records. I think I've bought one in years and years of buying records. I think I found one copy of a Twen record, And you can see there all the album covers. I've got a few of the magazines. The magazines are ridiculously expensive. I imagine also the records are now quite expensive as well. But Viva Mexico, as well as New Orleans New, and they're just great covers. Just brilliant covers. Doesn't give particularly much detail. Would have been nice, of course, if they had, but it probably would have been in German as well. I think this book is it is in English. So you've got the first edition there of Twen, appeared in 1959. Talks about that, but it's lots of German in that. This one is great. One of those oddball books that you pick up at market and you think, what's that? Halfway to Paradise, Britpop, 1950 Britpop, of course, 19 later on, but this is 1955 to 1962, and it's a lot of things like cutouts there of the Lonnie Donegan, the Vipers, as well as Skifflin Strings. Also, ABC decides on Oh Boy, Special Meeting, Fury Wham, obviously not that Wham, and This Billy Sings Like Fury. They came out with some great names, but it's just full of lots and lots of information about the music of the time. Matt Monro, Old Shep, don't ask me, Hold Back Tomorrow, a British country music scene, giving lots of details, obviously, of the various records of that time. And I just love these sort of books. Just great, because they're just a labour of love, I always think, because they're never probably going to be sort of bestsellers, but they're still fascinating to read. And it's just great that people bring them out. And also, it gives a little detail at the back of all the CDs they stock as well, so which is always good. This one, Thank Your Lucky Stars. I love these sort of music books that are related to TV shows. I must admit, I've only seen bits and pieces, at best 1 or 2 clips, but still quite fascinating to run through. History of ABC Weekend's television pop show. And you can see it just gives listings, which of course, if you're into listings, is pretty good. This one says Saturday, 18th of November, 1961, Brian Matthews, Billy Fury, etc., etc. So you get all the details about that. Not many pictures particularly. In fact, there's a few pictures at the back, but there are not many pictures. You can see a few pictures there. Patsy and Noble. But it does mention, and you can see how it all changed a bit, because then you get, near the end, you got like the Kinks, the Shadows, the Beatles, of course. We Can Work It Out promo. That was in 1965. So, fascinating little book. Very thin, but still a nice one to pick up. Now, unfortunately, I think it's a good old printed by Amazon. So you always see that slight bend in the paper. Actually, not as bad as usual. Maybe I've looked after it, maybe. Love this one. He created some of probably the first album covers. And they're just great. Absolutely unusual sort of thing. You got here Columbia Records. And you got here obviously people working there, and you got various things like that. The early years. Now the details, you got very spaced out writing, but it does have some great album covers. Now I would have loved to have seen this in big, larger format, but still, it does include some really decent pictures all the way through. Chain Gang and Melodies. And I've seen a few of these in the shops. They do turn up in charity shops. And that sort of thing. You think, that's an interesting one to get. And I quite often pick up album covers just purely for the album covers, because sometimes the music, is very scratched, the record. But it's still a great cover. And you've got there Grieg as well. Obviously more classical music there. This one, Teenage Revolution, Peter Lorre, an unusual one. Love that period sort of design. Obviously very mod sort of London, swinging cities London, Wimpy Bar. R&B, it actually says there, it just says Wimpy. Just slightly cut off, but it's obviously Wimpy. And you've got things about the youth services. You've got how cleverly do adults fleece the young. And some of the workings of the music business, and lots of other details about crime and self-destruction among the young. So it's not particularly a music book, but still obviously of that period of the 60s. This one, Mods, A Way of Life. This is a lovely one as well, full of some great pics of mods. Now, unfortunately, lots of these pictures, quite often you find the same ones. You've seen it in different books. But there's some, obviously, if every book has a couple of unique pictures, you think, haven't seen that one before. And it's got, obviously, lots of details there, but you've, of course, got groups of people on their bikes there. You've never had it so good. Midnight Wonderland. And you've got, of course, there people dancing away. I just think they're lovely pictures. And again, more people on their bikes as well. Can't beat a good old book. And also, of course, the bank holiday scenes there as well. And some people walking down on bank holiday. Mods changed everything. It's a great little book about mods. This is an unusual one. 70s music. The Virgin Encyclopedia. Now, I don't know how many they produced these. They did a 60s one or so, but it's just full of information. It's an encyclopedia, basically, of all the things. Gives details about their compilations, albums, etc., as well as, of course, a little bit of detail about the band. But it's like Blue Mink, Blondie, you got Glenn Campbell. So you got a whole load of different Camel, of course, all the acts of that period. And you got John Cale, Eric Clapton. Got a very, very large entry from Eric Clapton. Oh, another book, Alex Steinweiss. So obviously you can see I quite like Alex Steinweiss. And this one's got even more great covers all the way through it. Of course, these one of the Taschen books. I love these Taschen books. It's one of those Bibliotheca Universis. And it's just great. Just a great little book full of loads of pictures of album covers, as well as, of course, the various people. And also his design there, all the various Gothic there, and you can see more posters and lots of other brilliant covers there all the way through this book. So that's one that really worth checking out. Alex Steinweiss, one of the earliest of album cover designers. Total Records, photography and the art of the album cover. Again, full of some great images all the way through. A whole mix of periods. So you've got a lovely one there, some records there, some records there, and the reasonably sized as well. It's quite a decent sized book. And it's about, 400 odd pages of album covers. Some really great examples. That doesn't give particularly a lot of information about the album covers, but it certainly does give, obviously, some great examples all the way through. Another one of those 1,000 album ones, or 1,000 songs, or whatever. I just love these ones. And you've got here Miles Davis, Birth of the Cool. Also Bob Dylan, Freewheeling Bob Dylan. Just one of the best albums of all time as far as I'm concerned. Gives again the track listing as well as a lot of details about that. I can't wait, and I hope they bring out a bootleg series of Freewheeling. It must do at some point. Why not? It's one of those albums that's really, probably times they're changing. Maybe they'll bring one out of that as well. But there's loads of ones that obviously did the middle period that I always consider middle period, Highway 61, etc. But you've got there David Crosby, as well as Sly and the Family Stone, the Rolling Stones, Exile on Main Street, obviously there, Tom Waits. Now, not everyone gets a cover. See, for some weird reason, I don't know why. Maybe there was some license reasons. Why didn't they put the covers there? Or maybe they couldn't get them. I don't know. But it's just odd, isn't it, when you have some pages where they don't have the covers, and then on the others, you do. Just have a small one on all of them, you'd have thought. But still, a lovely little book all the same. This one's Hit Singles, the Warner Guide to UK and US one. Again, one of these great finds in a charity shop. 40 years of the 20 charts, and it just runs through US and UK. And it's always quite nice to actually see them in comparison. You just put them aside, and you can see what was sort of making the charts in the UK and what was making the charts in the US. Let's just go to 1967. Oh, Something Stupid. Nancy and Frank Sinatra at the top. In America, it was second. You got Happy Together. Now, Happy Together probably was released here, but it doesn't seem... Oh, that was 18th in the charts there. But it was doing a bit better in America. And you got Maggie May as well in the US. So obviously Rod Stewart was doing really well with those. But this is a lovely little sort of collection. It doesn't give obviously a lot. It only gives the top 20. So it's not like all of the records, but it still gives a decent snapshot of that time. We could have been the Wombles. Who wants to be the Wombles? This is all about one-hit wonders. Well, I think they probably did quite well, actually, didn't they? But this is full of just lots and lots of great records that did well, but obviously never. But I always think one-hit wonder is always a bit unfair because lots of these artists here probably were session people or whatever, who had produced lots of great songs, maybe did well around the world. So, I mean, this song here, Telly Savalas, maybe went on and did quite well in other countries. Doesn't mean, of course, it's just one hit in the UK. That was it here. But, of course, did quite well in other places as well. So it's quite fascinating. Like Take My Breath Away, Berlin. Now, I'm quite certain that Berlin did quite well in other countries. But obviously, Berlin, I can't recall any more records. But again, sometimes they did. They release a record, it might be in the top 40 or 50, just didn't make it into like top 10 or whatever. Kissing with Confidence, Will Powers, and so on. Fire. Obviously, Crazy World of Arthur Brown, of course, that brilliant sort of video that they produced. But we could have been, I love these ones, one-hit wonders. Soul Stylists. This one's a lovely little book. It's all about mods, all various about more about the sort of clothes, all various talking about the various clubs at the time, as well as various other things about the music. And it's got lots of information at the back as well. Just absolutely great book. And of course, Paul Weller as well. You can't beat Paul Weller in a book about mods. And you've got Decades of Modernism. Here's another one of these books by a year, 1972. Third Generation Rock and Roll, Peter Stanfield. And it's a very lovely little book, obviously all about sort of T-Rex and all those sort of people. Loads of others. Just go through that. You can see it's not a huge amount of pictures. In fact, there's not many pictures at all. You've got there one picture there, the Stooges, as well as I don't know, an advert for something. You've got a compact cassette. Remember those compact cassettes? As well as a lot of other details. But it's a nice little book all the same. But 1970, I've got one like 71, 66. I'm surprised no one's brought out a book yet of 67. They must have. Must be a book of 67 just called 67. 1976 needs to be a book for that as well. Sharper World. This is a great one. Mod Anthology. Thing about it, it's just full of little articles, obviously of the time. So they're sort of like absolute beginners, sort of snapshots. Very sometimes maybe out of a book or something. They've just taken that snapshot of that. So you got In the Life, Jonathan Green's In the Life, Mods, Richard Barnes. So it's all about sort of mod music, all the various people that were at the time, Shaftesbury Avenue, Tottenham Court Road, those sort of things. Mod Anthology, the Lamberts as well. Obviously they're Who, and many more. I really love this book. It's just a great little book. I love these sort of collections of articles or books of that period of time. Because, of course, now you sometimes get sort of people look at it and change, the history of it. Well, not change it, but sort of interpret the history. Whereas this was actually done at the time. So it's just fascinating. And, of course, you could buy all the books with those in, but they would be immensely expensive. This is a lovely book. 1,000 record covers from Taschen. Now, of course, there's overlaps with all the other books, but there's also lots and lots of albums that I've never seen before. And Doris Day, Miss Music, Teresa Brewer, 50s, see there, 50s as well, and into the 60s, 70s, and things like there you can see. Now, they're not the biggest of covers, but still, you see the book is not particularly the biggest of either. It goes through like into the 1970s. Let's go for, there's a picture there I can actually show. Some of the pictures, quite often the page will turn to something you think, oh, okay. Stranglers, as well as Heaven 17, and many other examples. This doesn't have many pictures. Totally Wired, The Rise and Fall, but it's still very interesting. Talks about NME, talks about obviously sounds, all the various magazines, Melody Maker from the 1920s, as well as American magazines as well, and papers and things. Obviously talking about Music Press, as well as things like Cream and The Leveller, ones I must admit I've never purchased, but also got things obviously punk fanzines as well, The Rocker there, Public Image Limited, as well as Girl Frenzy, Grand Royal, and many others. This is a superb book. David Hepworth's a fabulous creation. Now, of course, he's written loads of great books. This one, all about the LPs and CDs, discusses all the processes, all the way it's changed, all the modifications over the years, and it's just a fascinating read. Not many pictures, a few examples, but not many. There's a couple. Let's just quickly go and turn to some of the pictures here. And I have to find a picture or two that I can actually show. The Rock Machine Turns You On, and of course, Sgt. Pepper,